Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Matt Fiddes to the podcast today. And I'm very, very excited for this one because not only are we going to get to a certain subject, and I'll reveal the subjects in a minute, I have a lot of my own questions. But again, the main purpose of this podcast, loads of value, experiences being brought to the table, and I'm excited to get into this. So Matt Fiddes, business owner, you've had one hell of a life. There's going to be stories to be shared here. But firstly, I'd like to thank you for obviously joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, no, look, the pleasure is all mine, and I want to jump straight in. Okay, we're all going to find out about Matt Fiddes. If you don't know, then stick around because this is going to be one hell of a podcast. There's loads of stories and experiences I'm sure that are going to be within this podcast. But Matt, look, before we jump in with my first question, for anyone just watching at this point, can we just have that very quick overview of really who you are and where you are today?
Sure. Basically, we'll do it quick, Aaron, right? So I'm just a martial artist, failed all my school exams, no good at school, got bullied badly. That's why I started martial art. I can't write. They assumed I was right hand, I was left hand. Didn't figure that out until secondary school, so can't write. I can sign my name. That's all I've had to do in my life. And left school with nothing other than a PT qualification and my black belt, and decided I want to turn my passion into my profession. Start a martial arts business like no one has done before ever. Like putting people on direct debits and making it professional and educational. Got taught by the greatest of people in the world at a very young age to build this massive business. At 18 years old, making £1 million a year profit, not turnover profit, and went on to be the biggest of its type sector in the world. So the biggest martial arts brand in the world. Now I've done that in several sectors. I've done it in yoga and HMOs and property and you name it. I've done everything. Now I teach people how to franchise and grow their business, how to become better business people, start and scale a business. That's more my passion project now, really. I'm retired. I've got the biggest privately owned property portfolio in the southwest of the UK, which I started buying when I was 18. I'm 44 still. When you watch this, I might not be because my birthday's 18th of May, so not far away. And yeah, last time they valued me 120 million, but I'm hoping it's a lot more than that. So we've gone from £100 savings in my bank account along this crazy journey and built up this massive empire. And I'll be a billionaire by the time I'm 50. Is that enough?
That is a great overview and one to get us pumped and inspired because what we'll do we'll pick it apart and we'll find out how all this has been formulated and come together. So look, 120 million in value. I'm going to throw Michael Jackson's name out, someone who was a bodyguard very close to Michael Jackson, a confidant for some time, and we'll get into that during the podcast. But I'm going to kick this off with, let's take Matt straight back to, I think we even said, let's go 17 years old. You've been through many experiences. I'm sure there's been ups and downs. There's been mistakes. There's been learning curves. And I'm sure you've grown as a person. If we jump back to 17 years old, as we are in a very busy world right now, with the lay of the land, playing centre back in your own life, what has really stood out to you and what's molded you to be the person that not only is, let's put it as it is, financially successful, that financial success would have come with turmoil, ups and downs. How have you seen your life over the last, 25, 27 years?
Yeah, glad you ask it that way around, Aaron, because whenever I do stage talks, especially, entrepreneurs, gurus, mentors, whatever you want to call them, they like to talk about when everything's going great. But then people in the audience or watching this think it's okay for him, he got lucky, or he did well, he met Michael Jackson at a young age, he's hanging around with billionaires. When in fact, people like to relate to real people. So when I'm on stage, I talk about the fact that I ended up on antidepressants, two types. Ended up on sleeping pills, tried committing suicide 3 times when I was worth 30, 40 million at the time. Went for a major divorce. My mum, I lost very young of breast cancer. She had 6 months to live. And obviously Michael Jackson was a close friend of mine, dying suddenly. Media intrusion. family separation due to your success, due to where they just don't get you anymore, and they meet wives, girlfriends who get in their ear thinking you can do what Matt's done, you can put Matt where he is, when in fact they've probably grown up to realize that's not the truth now. So there's an awful lot of downsides to it, and I think if I could go back, I would not have took it so far. But then again, I am very driven. It is who I am. What the hell would I do every day? They do say, and I do believe this too, from my own assumption, 25 years ago, £1 million was £1 million. You could do a lot with that money. So being a millionaire, was actually cash millionaire at 19, was a big thing. But nowadays, in 2024, we're recording this podcast, you need 10 million to have that kind of lifestyle you had back then. So people, I had someone speak to me the other day, said, I'd love to win £1 million and give up work. And I said, how old are you? He says, I'm 35. Well, I said, well, if you just drew 30, £40,000 a year and had a modest lifestyle, you're not even going to make it to retirement age. There's nothing anymore. By the time you got a car and bought a house for your holidays and lived an okay moderate life. So I wouldn't have took it to the extent that I've took it. Like even today, I woke up to a mass load of stress, which I don't need in my life, really. But I kind of get buzzed up by it. It's a bit like the situation where I would say it because you get a bit of a shadow ban, but where we had to stay in our homes. I kind of enjoyed the thrill of turning around to my franchisees and clients saying, we'll get you through this. I didn't know how the hell I was going to do it, but I grew the business 4 times the size because of that. And won awards because of that. We grew through that situation in 2020. So in a strange way, I'm wired up differently. I've learned to accept that. I've got 6 beautiful children, and I've learned through the school of hard knocks. I had a rehearsal wife for 10 years. We got on extremely well. We got 3 amazing, beautiful daughters together. Madison, Lola, Savannah, I see often. I've got 3 children with my wife. Zach, Hero, and Miela, and they all get on great. I put them first before everything. So waking up, like this morning, I waked up to a heap of hassle to do with my property portfolio. And you think to yourself, why am I still bothering? I could have retired at 22, literally, and just be traveling the world. But it's just who I am. And it's not about the money. It's about, I look at money as a point scoring system now, Aaron, where if I'm changing enough people's lives, the byproduct's going to be money. So I mentioned earlier, I want to be a billionaire by the time I'm 50. Well, I will be a billionaire by the time I'm 50. That's the way the path's going, and I'm hitting my goals every day to do that. It's not because of materialistic things. Once you get past 10 million, you've got everything you want. We've got the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, you hire the choppers. What do you want to own one of those things for? We've got the mansion. We can go any holiday we want. There's nothing else to buy. So anything past that point needs to be a meaningful why, a real strong why. And for me, I just made my career by changing people's lives, by changing children's lives who were being bullied at school, who had no confidence, adults who wanted to lose weight, no confidence, parents wanted to learn self-defense. And everything the school system didn't teach, I blocked in and I taught, like goal setting, perseverance, water safety, fire safety, giving them positive role models. Not like the latest influencers on TikTok. You don't know who your kids are watching. It's quite shocking these days. So for me, it's, I'll be a billionaire by the time I'm 50, but not for the money. That's just the only way you can value and justify, measure. That's the word. The only way you can measure how many lives you're changing. And by doing that, I must have made over 1,000 millionaires in my life, easily. And that gives me a lot of joy. And if you go down a step too, it gives me a lot of joy when I see a kid who's being bullied at school, no confidence, getting their black belt, and the parents are crying. And you're thinking, this is what it's all about. The last Sunday I went to an event, and from 9 in the morning to late in the afternoon, I'm signing autographs, I'm doing pictures. And it might sound ridiculous, but it's tiring. And at my big event, once a year, there's 5,000 people there. I'm doing it from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. But I don't moan, because I remember what Michael Jackson taught me. Remember, Matt, they put you where you are now. So I treat everyone with as much respect as I possibly can. So it's important to get it in context. Money is important, but there's a certain point where you don't need any more. And you got a way up there. Do you go past that point? Because all you're going to do is give yourself one hell of a lot of stress, more. Or do you just say, okay, I'm at 10 million now, I'm invested wisely, I've got passive income coming in, I spend more time with the kids. There's only so many times you can go to the gym. There's only so many holidays you can take. You know, this is the problem. Making money for what else would I do every day? That's the thing.
Yeah, I love it. So I just want to reverse on a couple of things there. I like what you said earlier on. You're wired different. I think that's a given. I think if you love entrepreneurship, you love business, you might question why you did things or why you went to a certain level. And I think really, and I'm also talking for myself, is that what else would you have done? As in, you wouldn't be satisfied. You know, you have to have that purpose. And I think being wired different, and I talk about this quite a lot most recently, is that as I'm going through my entrepreneurship years and building out my businesses, I realized why they really call it the 1%. Because the things that you do, you really sit there and you think, yeah, an average person wouldn't have done this. And I liked what you said about problem solving. And I want to go over this again, is that problem solving is, I think that's, you know, everyone, we're in a world right now of titles. This is a really common thing. You know, everyone loves a big title. You know, who are you? And they love to say a big title. I think entrepreneurship, you can call it what you want, CEO, director, owner. You're a problem solver. I think that's the other thing. And I'm sure you've had many problems to solve over the years. Can I ask you, what's your thoughts on good or bad news, or is it just news? Because I've come to the conclusion it doesn't matter what it is. If there's a problem to be solved, I've got to sort it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, well, I don't believe in problems. I just believe in challenges. I think if I believed in problems, I would have gone clinically mad by now. Because the only time I get a phone call on this thing, which used to be for ringing hours, WhatsApp messages, and so forth, the only time I get a phone call, the only person people reaching out to me is because there's a challenge going on. There's something that, and I've pretty much been there and done it nearly 3 decades now, where I can handle every challenge, we've overcome it, and so forth. I enjoy it, Aaron. I love it. I love it. Like this thing that developed this morning. That's going to take the rest of my day now. Got to prepare a lawsuit, get lawyers involved straight after this podcast. But for me, it's fighting for what's right. You know, fighting for when people do you wrong. That's the other thing too. The more successful you get, the more people come after you, and it's quite shocking. And you do question it. But for me, I don't have problems. I have challenges. I teach all my franchises and clients there's no problems, there's challenges. That is life. We get paid for that. And the more successful you're going to get, the more challenges you're going to get. The more haters, trolls you're going to have, people trying to bring you down. And that is the measure of success. If you don't have people trying to bring you down, talking bad about you, and on these keyboards and all the rest of it, trying to bring you down and blogs and everything else, then you're doing something wrong. Because the idea in this, what you've got to try and do in this world is if you upset as many people as you possibly can by being in their faces and being amazing at what you do, then the 2 or 3% that spend their time trying to bring you down, I call them my free publicists. They're out there. I love it. And that's the only measure of your success, really, is are you experiencing haters, trolls, jealousy, and you're not liking that. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs will step back and think, "Oh, I don't like this. This is not for me." But you've got to push through that because that's where it's really at. That's where success lies, beyond that point.
I think there's three quotes I just want to, before we move on to the next one. Frank Sinatra, the best form of revenge is success. Winston Churchill, a man will never reach his destination if he stops and argues with every barking dog. And the other one I can't bloody remember, but there was three quotes that just line up. But that's what it is. And I think, you know, like free publicity, that's what it is. When you're doing something right, there are going to be people that do not want you to be successful. This all leads us nicely into my next question for you, which is why? Why all of this? Why have we ended up on a podcast? You're worth 120 million. You've worked with Michael Jackson for many years. You've been in the public eye, surrounded by billionaires. You've got the story, the ups and downs. Why? What would have been the alternative? Or, which I like to tie in, maybe there was no alternative because, like you said, maybe it would have been a total life of depression, regret, and bitterness and a midlife crisis. So why entrepreneurship? Why business? Why the hard route? Why design your life rather than being assigned one?
I wish I had all the answers, Aaron, because we don't know how this all works. I mean, a very good friend of mine is he's an expert in the power of the brain. Says we only use 10% of our brain. A guy called Uri Geller, who's pinnacle to my career, and I, yeah. So I think a lot of it stems to your childhood. Whenever I look at my successful friends, they've all been bullied at school, overweight, underconfident, bad parenting on their side, the parents didn't treat them well, put down by their grandparents, bad relationships. Something gives the fire in the belly to trigger you off. So that's a common theme I see in a lot of it. Now, I am wired up differently. Now, whether that's a genetical thing, because in my family, my mum's one of 14 children, and they're all very university driven academics, whereas I'm not that way. So I was expected to go down that way. And my grandfather on that side was seven-time Irish weightlifting champion. He was picked for the 1960s Rome Olympics. So whether that drive I inherited from him, he was most disappointed out of his 14 kids. Nobody had the athletic drive. And then the grandkids started coming along. And I was the only one, really, me and a cousin of mine, Wendy, who's shown this athletic flair. Mum was always very good, though, in she knew I was going to fail all my school exams. And it wasn't through lack of trying. I don't want any kids watching this or parents thinking I didn't try. I did try. It just wasn't for me. You can't have a set of 30 kids think the rule's going to work for them. I just knew. And I don't know why I knew, but at 13 years old, there's that very famous story. I've still got the exercise book today. So we didn't have iPads back in the classroom back then. We had a book per class, math, science, and so on. I'm in my maths class. I remember it's still clear as day. Maths teachers talking. We're doing mock GCSE questions, which is for the UK secondary school, high school qualifications. And one of the questions was, how many different ways can you put 50p into a phone box? In England, this used to be a thing. I know when people travel to the UK, they're the museum pieces, but they were on every street corner. They were a massive thing. If you want to ring your mum and dad, you go and reverse the charge. And you might be a bit younger than me, so you probably don't remember it. But it
Oh,
was,
I used to do it as well. Yeah, it was still about.
yeah, and we only went home when the lights started to come on, the street lights. There's no mobile phones or nothing like that. So the question was how many different ways do you put 50 pence into a phone box? Two 20p's and 10, five 10p's, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought to myself, this is just ridiculous. Why am I even, how is this going to help me? Now, how I knew that at that age, I don't know. But I discovered this passion and love of martial arts due to being bullied at school. And I just wanted to do that. I wanted to do something I love. And there was no one had done it before. So I turned the exercise book to the back of the page and I wrote all these goals. And some of them are stupid. It's barely readable unless you're me because of my handwriting techniques. Isn't the best, but I can understand it. So some of the things were like, I want to do the splits like Jean-Claude Van Damme. I have the perfect body, six-pack, pecs, big muscles, all these things that only bodybuilders and martial arts will understand. I wanted to be a millionaire by the age of 20. When I grew up, my brother's a car designer. Nathan, incredible what he does. And so I grew up with pictures of Ferraris everywhere. He loved Ferraris. So I wanted a Ferrari 355 or Ferrari Testarossa, which was my era. So he had his own bedroom. And I remember all these drawings. I was so impressed by it. So I wanted a Ferrari by the time I was 20. I wanted to be the most famous person and teaching martial arts in the world. Blah, blah, blah. And there were some other stupid things on there too, like only martial artists would know, like how high you can kick and all this and so forth. And I just focused on that every day through secondary school. So by the time I left school at 16, I had this blueprint of where I wanted to go. Now I had to work out how the hell am I going to put that together. And I believe in the law of attraction. I don't know if you do, Aaron, but I can't explain what's happened to my life if I didn't believe in it. It's been like a flipping fairy tale. But I opened up my first martial arts school. I knew I had to be aggressive at marketing. I'm very good at marketing. I'm naturally, I would say I'm gifted at marketing. And I've had some great mentors in that area too. But from an early age, before Michael Jackson, Muhammad Ali, Uri Geller, and everyone else, I knew that I had to be everywhere. So I lived in this little village called Braunton. It's got 10,000 people, 5,000 of them are elderly. You go there to retire. So my audience was 5,000 people. I had an uncle who believed in what I did. And one of my famous kicks was a thing called a flying sidekick. It used to be part of my logo. And now you just paparazzi style, do it once, you got it. Back then, we literally went to a squash court. I couldn't afford to hire it. And my friend had a camera over and over again, 300 times. So I got that shot, and that became my logo. My brother made it into a logo for me. And then I put posters everywhere, very aggressive marketing. Everywhere you looked was my martial arts school. I had a pager. I had over 100 bookings for the first class. It was a Sunday morning. I turned up. Nobody turned up. Completely empty. I was devastated, thinking, proved the bullies wrong. The my girlfriend, I was embarrassed. We lived in a £30 a week bedsit. We've been evicted from 2 already. It's the 3rd one. And then we get home, put the TV on. Princess Diana died that morning. So that's why no one turned up. Waited 10 days or so, opened up again. Had over 100 people turn up, paying £3 a class. My overheads were £15 a night, twice a week, doing okay money. Parents started to take a bit of an interest, but still thought, this is legalized violence. You're never going to make any money out of this. And then again, back to law of attraction. One of my best friends, Lee Charles, was on holiday in America. He comes back. I get a page. Matt, call me urgently. I'll ring him on the red phone box outside my bedsit. He said, just come back from the States. You would not believe what's going on out there. They're like 20 years ahead of us, which has always been the case, really. They got martial arts multi-millionaires instructors. And I shot him back and said, Lee, I don't want to compromise standards for money. He said, no, they've got everything. They're unbelievable. So there was this convention. Unlike events you go to nowadays where you'll get a bit of pitching going on, we never had that back then. It was literally 3 days of, we never had the word content either, Aaron. That's kind of a new one. It was information and networking. No masterminding either. So it was like 3 days intensive. And then you come back with all this information. The owner of the organization was in his 80s. He heard about this 17-year-old. And to supplement my £3 a class martial arts lessons, I was working as a lifeguard for £2.75 an hour. He's so impressed, he took me under his wing and he said, listen, you'd be the perfect case study for me. Let's make you rich and make you famous in the industry. And he told me to go and follow this person around, get up at 4 a.m., follow this person around, take it back to England. Some of it might work, some of it won't. And I did. I brought it back to the UK. I implemented all in my business. I had nothing to lose. Put everyone on direct debit. That stabilized my income, 100 people. 49, 59 plus family membership, 79 a month. So around about 6,000-7,000 a month coming in. Overheads is £30 a week. I implemented a life school educational system in that the school system don't teach because it's outdated. Mine's dated. I'm not a club. I'm a school, a private school. Straight away, bam, it went off. And then I did it again. Long story short, the next town was called Barnstable, 30,000 people in it. Found a full-time building, managed to convince the landlord to give me 6 months free rent. And I had 700 members in there for 6 months, making £80,000 a month, £1 million a year profit. My overhead was £220 a month. That was it. I came out of the bedsit, bought my first home, and then got pushed into buying property by a friend of mine who's a property tycoon, saying, I'm not going to build any more land. And bingo.
Boom.
Boom.
I think there's 3 things that you've that I'll pick apart for anyone listening that might have missed these. Is that one, you were actively aggressive in your marketing. That's super important.
Massive. Yeah.
I think I talk about this all the time. Marketing is that you have to be so active in your own startup in marketing, and you have to be. The other word I would use is creative. You know, back then you said you were putting up posters. Now you've got to be on all platforms, posting high quantity but high quality content all the time, and you've got to be doing something different from the competition. And then you sprinkled a little bit of what I love, networking. You know, and law of attraction, absolutely, I do believe it. I believe if you are actively participating in the saving of your own life and where you want to go, it will come, you know, life of equilibrium or whatever you want to call it. It will come back round if you're putting yourself out there, stepping outside the comfort zone, basically, right? And then I think just really aggressive in only seeing plan A. Because I imagine someone's asked you before. I would be shocked if no one's ever asked you, because I've been asked it before. Matt, what's plan B if this don't all work out?
I have a plan B. It's always going to be okay.
I've never had a plan B. I've been asked, I mean, let's,
What's plan B for? I want plan A. I don't.
yeah. And I think I was
You
just going to say,
bang on to the marketing thing though. There's three areas of business, Aaron. You got, and people neglect this. They focus on area number three all the time, and they go downhill. So the first one is marketing. You've got to be a marketing genius on
yeah,
offline as well as on online. Now, I teach very heavy on offline because I teach 70 marketing methods that are offline. Because if you get deplatformed off Instagram, Facebook, and you're relying on that, you're screwed. My
mhm,
clients, my franchises, I've got a big manual where I spend 2 or 3 days on it and I teach them offline marketing ideas. They don't rely on it. So by the 5th of every month, they need to have 15 offline marketing ideas in place, as well as their daily online. The second area of business, so marketing is number one. Second area is sales, but not high ticket sale pressure. You need to offer such a good service and product that people will buy from you anyway. You don't need all this if you don't buy now. How are you going to fit in 6 months' time and go to some stupid sales course and whatever? You don't need that. I'm living proof of that. And the third thing is what you get to do, which is mentor, coach people, have a product. Most people focus on the third thing and they neglect the sales and the marketing. If you don't do marketing and sales, you've got no one to serve in the flipping first place. So
mhm.
that's the three areas you've got to get down. For whatever reason, I've always been incredible, wired up marketing.